Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank both of you for being here. And I want to applaud the administration's effort with respect to supporting Ukraine and punishing Russia. And Congress, of course, has been an important partner, key partner in that effort. I think we have about $15 billion as part of the continuing resolution in support of Ukraine. As you mentioned, Assistant Secretary Rosenberg, in response to Senator Romney, the big sort of hole in our sanctions is the record revenue and record profits Russia has obtained from the sale of energy, oil and gas. And I share the concerns that Chairman Menendez raised at the beginning of the hearing regarding holes in proposed sanctions regimes coming up with respect to the price cap. So I'd like to drill down a little bit more on it, because it's a creative idea, and I want to applaud the administration for this price cap idea with the G7. A couple questions as to how you envision that being enacted. I assume that there will be penalties on entities from participating countries if they don't comply, right? I mean, isn't that right? I mean, you're going to, if you're an entity in one of the participating countries and you don't comply, knowingly don't comply with the price cap, there will be penalties, right?
Yes, Senator, that's correct.
Right. So there will be sanctions on those countries. Do you envision those sanctions being applied by each participating country?
Yes, they can. They could also be, in here I think you're talking about enforcement actions.
I'm talking about enforcement actions.
Yes. So yes, they could also be applied by other jurisdictions where there is nevertheless a jurisdictional link. For example, a service provider in an EU country, but that's using dollars. There's two different jurisdictions there, so there's an opportunity for multiple jurisdictions.
Right. So in that case, in that example, you're talking about the participating G7 country and the United States when we're talking about dollar-denominated transactions, right?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. But we have no plan to enforce the price cap on any countries that do not participate in the price cap. Isn't that right?
To play out an example here in order to answer this question. So if, for example, we have a Southeast Asian country that is purchasing oil not under the price cap and using entirely non-G7 services, there's not a jurisdictional link. I would note that we believe that the powerful economic incentive for them to use services in these jurisdictions and also the risk involved in not using these services will direct, in addition to which Russia does not have sufficient services in order to completely backfill all of the barrels that currently go to, that would flow through G7 services.
No, I understand. I mean, again, that's applying the penalty on the servicers that are participating under the G7 framework. It's not a sanction against entities that are not part of that servicing network. And I agree that—
Senator, if I may—
If I could, because my time is short. This is why, Senator Toomey and I introduced the secondary sanctions regime, because it's our view that if you're talking about a country like China, and you're talking about a period of time, and we have to be in this for the long haul, I know you agree with that, that there is just a real opportunity if there are no penalties applied to China, for example, for buying under the price cap, that the whole thing could unravel. So I guess if all of this works as you expect, what is the downside of creating penalties not just for servicers and entities in the G7 sort of framework, but beyond that?
Senator, we do currently have authorities to name entities with sanctions that compel G7 service providers to violate sanctions. That is to say, there is an opportunity to go after entities outside of the G7 countries if they are violating these measures and in some way have a jurisdictional hook to ours.
I understand. As I understand what you're saying is if they use coercive measures, essentially, to say to one of the servicers, if you don't play a game, if you don't participate with us in evading the price cap, you can go after you. But again, I mean, it does leave a network, admittedly not a huge network right now, outside the G7 countries that would be free to purchase Russian oil above the price cap. And I just think, especially over time, because markets can adjust quickly, oil traders can adjust quickly. Over time, that just leaves, I think, a big hole in what is, I think, a really good idea and concept. And look, we're working with you and your team, and happy to continue conversations as we introduce the final bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.